Hey now everybody, this is Professor Island and we are discussing critical perspectives, critical approaches, and today we're discussing gender criticism. Gender criticism is a critical perspective that is an objective perspective that looks simply at the presentation of male and female characters in a work and the stereotypes that fit the era in which the work was presented. Essentially, if you're looking at a work that was written in the 1970s, you're looking at the work in the context that the characters either fit or do not fit the stereotypes of men and women during that time. This is objective in the sense that you're simply cataloging what is typical and what is not typical, what is expected, what is not expected. There's no response to it like you would get with a feminist or a cultural perspective. Gender criticism uses secondary source material that explains the typical and expected roles for men and women at the time that you are referring to within the work. Gender criticism can work two ways if the work itself, written at one time in history, refers to a different time in history. So, for example, if you're reading something that was written in the 1970s concerning roles of men and women, but the work itself is a story that's set in the 1950s, their presentation of men and women may reflect the 1950s values and expectations and roles, or it may reflect other aspects of 1970s. And very often, if it's accurately set in the 1950s, especially in terms of what men and women are supposed to do in terms of work and gender identity and things like that, it will reflect very accurately the 1950s, and you'll use secondary sources for that. The woman does this, she does not do these things. The man does this, he does not do these things. And then when you look at the 1970s, you might note that at this time, by this time women are doing this such and such a thing, and this does not occur in the story. Or this woman is relegated to this particular thing, and that would not have been a law back in the 1950s, or that would have not have been allowed back in the 1950s. So in any case, the idea is you need secondary source material that is historically based, but you're focusing essentially on only the gender issues. And in fact, the difference between historical criticism and gender criticism is that historical criticism covers all the elements of the era in which the work is placed or was written, and the gender criticism focuses only on gender issues in terms of when the work was written or when the work was placed. Okay? Again, this is an objective analysis. It's not anybody's opinion. It's you just finding information and essentially working with your secondary sources against what's being portrayed in the work. Hope that helps. Stay in touch.